And that's what we emphasize a lot with Fortknoxster, that it has to be extremely easy to use, easy to onboard, easy to understand, easy to invite other people. And actually one of our task was it should be so easy to use that even our parents could sign up without any questions. So and otherwise it will not be used by many if it's so complicated. And so we try to do something extremely complicated behind the scenes, and the user experience should be like any other services.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Crypto Weekly podcast, the show where we interview the top movers and shakers in the crypto industry. Today, we've got a great show for you. We're joined with the founder and CEO of the world's most secure messaging and communications app, Fortknoxster, Niels Klitsgaard. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike. Glad to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you. So just to get started, I know your background is big in cybersecurity, but why don't you just maybe give our audience a little overview of how you got introduced to crypto and how you came to found the company Fortknoxster?
Yeah, it's a long story. I try to make it short. Basically, what my interest is in general is I'm an entrepreneur, but I love to try to make things easier or faster or more secure. And after all this stuff came out in news with Edward Snowden, I was thinking for years, like, is this really true? And why didn't anybody fix this issue? And I don't want to be hacked, and I don't like the fact that it's so easy to hack like a normal plain text email. So I was trying to play myself with different encryption like PGP, for instance, and it was not really easy for like a normal guy. So I reached out to some cybersecurity experts and asked why isn't there like a platform for the normal guy to use? And I gathered a team, and we couldn't really find anything which we thought was like easy to use, easy to onboard. We used a bit of Telegram sometimes, and then we played with Signal and Trezorite, which is encrypted storage, and at that time, WhatsApp, FaceTime, you name it, all those services. But there was nobody who built a one-stop platform. And I was like, well, let's try to do that, because the more you switch between different services and applications, the more insecure also your communications and data are, because they are fragmented and you forget stuff and all that. So after analyzing the market, we said, let's try to go all in and make a one-stop cybersecurity platform where you don't have to log into all kind of stuff, where end-to-end encryption is default. And that's eventually what Fortknoxster is. On top of that, we start playing with blockchain some years ago, and we integrated a blockchain into our platform as well, which makes it even more secure and even more interesting to play with this space. And that's how we started with crypto in late 17, early 18.
Amazing. And for full disclosure for the audience, I am a user of Fortknoxster, and I have to say the interface, the UX UI, it's just so clean, easy to understand, easy to navigate, and all of your messaging is there in one place, from emails to texting, and even sending and receiving files. So I'm a big fan, big proponent of the platform, but clearly you guys have put the consumer first in mind when building the platform. One thing I want to ask about is data security, and data is now the most I guess the most valuable commodity on earth, but yet people still don't take their data privacy and security seriously. Why do you think it's taken so long for people to start waking up to this need for more security in their everyday kind of internet communication lives?
That's a great question, Mike, because that's what we ask ourselves every day. Like when we launched, we thought like, wow, everybody would love this. It will be an easy sell. It's a no-brainer. But people, they trust a lot their services. And don't get me wrong, I love Americans, I love the country, but most of the service is coming from the US, for instance. They're free, but you end up being the product because obviously, like Facebook, Gmail, all those big players, that they earn a lot of money, and you can see that every quarter. Um, but they basically make their money off your data, of your information, and they're not necessarily the bad guys, but even big companies get hacked all the time. So your data, once you post it there on a free service, which is very convenient, but it will end up in what I call the Wild West. So if you don't care, and most people say, well, I have nothing to hide, I'm a good guy, so why should I think about encryption? And normally, if I'm at dinner party or something, so do you lock your door at night? They say, yeah, of course I do. So why do you do that? Well, to avoid, people taking my stuff and coming into my privacy, and that's exactly the same. And also many say, well, why should I use Fortknoxster? Why should I mess with that? I have WhatsApp, and I use Google and Gmail, and that's a really valid question to me. And normally I say, well, look in your wallet. How many credit cards do you have? Well, I have 4. Say, why do you have 4? Well, sometimes I use this for this occasion, sometimes I use this for another, and say it's kind of the same. I'm not saying that everybody should use Fortknoxster 24/7, even it's so easy to do. But in some occasions where you really need to be careful, sending personal documentations, sending data, sending something you really family stuff, just protect yourself. Use anything else than Gmail and WhatsApp and all that. That's our recommendations. And most people, they think, well, this is not happening to me, it's happening to the neighbor. And once they get compromised, they normally, wake up and say, okay, I should have thought about that. And so it's a long play, it's a long pitch. But every day in the news, unfortunately, you see big companies, organizations, private persons getting hacked all the time. I saw yesterday that New York police, they stated that every 14 seconds, an enterprise is getting hacked, either spyware, malware, cyber attack. So unfortunately, it's booming, booming, booming. So from a business point of view, we are in a good space, and it's good to help people.
Well, speaking of spyware, let's just maybe quickly touch on this topic, because I just read an article in the news that Fortknoxster was helping journalists to protect their privacy, to protect free speech. Can you talk a little bit about that initiative that you guys are taking under your wing?
Yeah, sure. Well, last week the news broke that the NSO group, Pegasus, which is kind of the nickname, the software was found on more than 50,000 journalists and freedom fighters' phones, etc. And which of course is really bad in many terms. And there's many excuses how all this panned out. But the end of the line, bottom of the day, is like it's not something which is nice to wake up for a journalist and find out that his phone or his computer has been compromised for years. And so for us, the first thing, of course, we think is like they should use something like our service, Fortknoxster. And our team got together, and within 2 minutes we say, well, why not give this for free to all journalists and newsrooms, etc. So that's what we are offering now, and it got quite good welcomed in the media and in the press. And for us, anything we can do to help, of course, we will do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's an incredibly noble effort, and I think more businesses need to take that to heart and understand what it means to truly protect free speech, because that's how societies are formed, and that's how we move forward as a global community. Moving back to the last topic we were just chatting about the lack of urgency for people to use data security. I think there's this trade-off that people tend to want ease of access and as opposed to wanting things being very secure, they want things to be very easy. And I think one of the things that I love about Fortknoxster is that it abstracts all the all the blockchain and the technical encryption from you, and all you worry about is your information, your emails, and sending of your texts. So I guess, why don't we chat a little bit about how important it is to abstract all of that security away from the user to make it such an easy to use experience, and how that helps to grow the adoption of crypto, blockchain, and security in its own right.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's such a valid point, because that's actually how it all started. Like I mentioned before, myself, I'm like most other people. I have short attention span. If I download something, I want to use it within 10 seconds. And if I don't understand it, which I didn't do with the PGP encryption I messed with some years ago, I was like, why is this not something user friendly? Because I'm off to the next Google search for something else if it doesn't work. And that's what we emphasize a lot with Fortknoxster, that it has to be extremely easy to use, easy to onboard, easy to understand, easy to invite other people. And actually, one of our tasks was it should be so easy to use that even our parents could sign up without any questions. And otherwise it will not be used by many if it's so complicated. And so we try to do something extremely complicated behind the scenes, and the user experience should be like any other services. And that also sometimes have its downside for us, because sometimes in the chat it might be a second delayed versus WhatsApp and other services, and people ask, oh, it says it's encrypting. So say, yeah, but if you knew what was going on behind the scenes, the whole security check, everything we do behind the scenes is actually our unique selling point. It's not the interface, it's not our nice colors and stuff. So people sometimes forget that what they use is extremely complex. It's the whole security part. Of course, you don't see it. You can, there's no like look and feel into that.
Yeah, and as I said, right, sorry, the world's most secure messaging and communications app. So the tagline kind of speaks for itself in that respect. And if data privacy is something that you take seriously, this is definitely, you know, the place to look. Can we talk for a second about the difference between, you know, anonymity and privacy? Because I think people tend to conflate those two terms. And I think, you know, with Fortknoxster, what you're saying is you don't necessarily need to be anonymous to be private, right? To have your information secure. So can you talk about the difference between those two things, and how Fortknoxster looks at the comparison between the two?
Well, sorry, I didn't get you first. It's between what?
Between anonymity, being anonymous, right? There,
Yeah.
you know, with true secure encryption, you don't necessarily need to be anonymous in order to be private, or to have your information private and held sovereignly by yourself. So I think when people say, I want to be secure, you know, people tend to look at that and say, well, I want to be anonymous. But in the, you know, as crypto continues to develop, I think what we're starting to realize is anonymity doesn't need to be the end state. Privacy needs to be the end state. But if we can start to put our identities on the blockchain, and we can start to prove who we are, then that's even more powerful than being anonymous in some way.
Yeah, that's true. Well, in our case, our platform is a platform everybody can use and sign up to, just like all other services. Now I talk basically about our B2C platform. We also have a B2B platform which we offer to enterprises, where we have a more, how can I say, deep conversation, deeper dialogue with the companies, because sometimes we set it up as a standalone service instead of being in the cloud. But there's many takes on this. We like to endorse privacy, security, and that comes also sometimes with a cost, because we don't need to know a lot about our users. It's not like we don't care, but it's privacy, and the less we know, actually, the better. And that's why, for instance, if you lose your password, you're a bit, you know, we can help you. So if you don't write it down, you have a problem. and most other services, they have your password, meaning that they can just give it to you again, meaning they can log in at any time to snoop on your stuff. I'm not saying they do, but worst case they can do. But there's a fine line, and all, like everything else, what is good for the good guys is good for the bad guys. So we are not here to police anything. Of course, if there's an issue, we will help the good guys. But normally we don't interfere in anything. For us, Fortknoxster is a big black hole server-wise. Our servers could be on the street and we wouldn't have a security issue because everything is end-to-end encrypted. So it's a very interesting dialogue which we could talk about for hours. Normally, I used to say, well, probably 5-10% of people walking into a McDonald's is probably criminals, or buying a kitchen knife or something they shouldn't use it for. Like what's good for everybody is good also for the few bad guys. Yeah. Actually, there's a lot of things going on now regulation-wise, which we endorsing, and we are just sitting on the sidelines waiting for more regulation in the crypto space, because we don't mind doing KYC, AML, and soon we will be integrating a non-custodial wallet into our platform and crypto onboarding as well, and we will be integrating normally, security checks and KYC, AML, and I think in a few years that will be a part of being in the crypto space, which will be propelling it to have much more wider knowledge and spread and acceptance than now.
Yeah, and I think, just going back to your point, right, with great power comes great responsibility. And I think that's the whole ethos of the not your keys, not your coins type of methodology in the crypto space, is that we are giving you sovereign identity, sovereign ownership over your data. But with that responsibility, you need to also understand how to secure it yourself. So as you said, that is more of a selling feature than a detractor. You guys also have a cryptocurrency of your own, right? For FKX.
FKX, yes, that's right. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that. How can we buy it? What's the utility?
Yeah, sure. Well, when we start playing with the blockchain, the obvious thing would be like, let's see if we can make our own little coin. And so we made FKX, which is a utility coin. And FKX is used to upgrade from our B2C platform. So we have this freemium platform where users can sign up and use all our services. But once they get like more heavy users, like most other services, we have a pro feature, and you can upgrade that primarily by using FKX, and that is equal to $99 a year. So that is our utility there, and soon we will come with also some DeFi integrations, as I touched on before, and one of them will be staking. So if you have your coins in our wallet on Fortknoxster, we will give you 5% ROI per year, for instance. Wow. And some other goodies down the road. So there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. Our roadmap is packed, and we just love what we do, because there's so much going on. There's so much up and down. It's not fun to see your coin go down like 50%, but in a week it could be 100 or 200. All that you get used to being in this space. It's not for the faint-hearted if you just sit and look at your coin every morning. But we've been in a fantastic bull run the last 6 months, and of course there's a correction, and this one is now. But long term, I'm not talking 3 months. I'm talking 2, 3, 5 years. I'm sure we will be in a fantastic space, because not only I think the whole digital currency and crypto space will evolve much more, but also I think the cybersecurity issue, which we have up our face every day in the news, on LinkedIn, I think people get more and more used to spend a few bucks on cybersecurity. There's a lot of things going on. We saw Amazon, they bought Wicker a few weeks ago, which is, I wouldn't say a competitor, but they have a secure messaging only platform, mainly for B2B. But it shows that the big guys are starting looking at the space, and I think yeah, maybe Google or Apple soon will either do something themselves or buy, you know, a little startup which is super good at it, because it's the future. It is. You need to protect yourself and you need to protect your data, because the hackers are getting better and better, more sophisticated, more vicious, and that's just their game. And they always ahead of you. And they say like only 1% of all hacks are being found out, meaning no, you could have been hacked for a year or two without knowing it, like the journalist we talked about before. And then they say on one of those 1% hacks, only 1% is getting published, because especially companies, they, you know, it's not a good thing to say, hey, sorry guys, we got hacked, and all our customers' data is out there. Now there's a lot of laws coming which enforce that you should publish it, but it's not something that nice to talk about in the boardroom when you're getting hacked and what to do and all that. So it's a huge issue. But the thing is, it's not really a sexy issue. It's like if you spend money on cybersecurity, it's not something it doesn't boost your sales or anything, but it's like an insurance premium you pay.
Absolutely.
Because if you get hacked, compromised, it has huge consequences.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, you're talking a little bit about the future. Why don't we briefly for a second talk about what excites you about the future? You know, either be it in the crypto space or in the cybersecurity space. Over the next 5 years, what excites you about the future, and where do you see Fortknoxster fitting into that future of cybersecurity?
Yeah, well, I'm super excited about the future. I'm super excited every day I wake up, because we are in a space, like, sorry for repeating myself, but as hackers are getting more and more brutal every day, and you see almost like wars are starting more or less. It could be compromising of a power plant. It could be, you've probably seen those movies on Netflix, like the wars in the future will be digital. It will be some guys sitting compromising whatever worst case scenarios, and which could wipe up a city. It will not be with bombs. So the whole cybersecurity space is for us very exciting, because we're helping people and organizations protect themselves. And there's so much going on in different industries with different issues. There's the malware, the spyware, but also the phishing emails. There's so much going on. It's almost like playing a video game, you know, because we have the hackers on the other side, and we try to help. And our own platform is getting hacked 24/7. Or not hacked, we are getting attacks from all kind of hackers. So for us, we can see our service is really getting a lot of traffic from funny places, funny countries, and that's just the part of what we do. Because when you go out and say, well, we're super secure, some hackers will try to prove the opposite. But we work with a lot of hackers, companies. There's one called HackerOne, where you basically pay people, super good hackers, to try to compromise you all the time. And if they find something which could be an issue, we fix it and we pay them. It's like a bug bounty. So it is super exciting. It's digital, and also now we merged with the crypto world, which is also super exciting. So I could not imagine being in a more interesting space than this. It's awesome.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think there's so much to be excited for, especially as we look down the road in the crypto space. Niels, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. If people want to get in touch with you, or if people want to start using your platform, how would they do so?
Well, they just go to fortknoxster.com, and they can sign up for free, play with the service, invite their friends, and it's super easy to use. It works both on mobile apps and on web app, and it's super easy. Takes
Awesome.
30 seconds, you're off.
And I can vouch for that firsthand. Niels, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for the time, and congratulations on everything you've accomplished this far. And I look forward to seeing what Fortknoxster does in the future.
Thank you, Mike. It's been a pleasure.
All the
best.
Take care. Take care.
Thank you. Yes. Bye-bye.